Hello and welcome to part 1 of MMA Crypt's Fighting Talk for UFC 168. Joining me for today's show will be Mr. Brian Hunt and Chris McMillan. Okay, kicking things off with round 1 and the main event for UFC 168, Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva. Now, UFC have put on some exciting rematches in the past with tons of hype and buzz surrounding them, with the likes of Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg, Lesnar versus Miesha, and Anderson Silva versus Sonnen. Tell us, guys, do you think this is the biggest rematch in UFC history? That question is for you first, Brian.
Oh, I'm torn. I'm not feeling it. I was more excited about Silva versus Sonnen too. So I'm not. I mean, we're under a week out, and I'm not thinking about MMA 24/7 yet. It's not. It hasn't grabbed me. I think it kind of goes from the promo. Whenever I see the promo with the yelling at the beginning of it, I turn it off. I'm like, I hit mute. I'm like, oh God, it's an irritating as shit promo. So, but that can't be the big picture. I know when the Friday comes, I'm gonna be all about it, but I'm not right now. It's kind of scary. It's kind of sad. I'm not sure. Maybe there's no trash talking. There's no Sonnen. I mean, nobody can bring it like Sonnen does, but I was much more hyped about Sonnen versus Silva 2 than I am this fight right now.
Chris, do you think this is the biggest rematch in UFC history?
You know what? I'm gonna have to give a bit of a I don't know to that right now. I will ask me again when the fight is over, because the reason why I say that is because you look at Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos, the first rematch. Junior Dos Santos had just knocked out Velasquez in one round, and here they were fighting again a year later. So many people were off the Cain Velasquez hype train, and look what he did to him. And then it caused one of the biggest rematches and the biggest rivalries in UFC history. So what I'm saying is that, I mean, if Anderson Silva comes out and looks more interested in clowning around than fighting, and gets finished again, then you've got to say, nah, this was just going to be Anderson Silva showboating for 2 fights. But if he comes out and looks like an Anderson Silva who's really intent on making a point, then you could say it's one of the biggest rematch. You could say it is the biggest rematch in history, because then you can say, well, here's this guy who came out of nowhere from Long Island, who took on a guy who seemed seemingly unbeatable, knocked him out, and beat him in a one-sided fight, and then the greatest came back 6 months later and did a complete 180 on him. So, and that sets up a perfect trilogy, and those fights always turn out funny.
You see, I think Silva versus Sonnen 2 was the biggest rematch before this fight. I do believe this fight exceeds Silva versus Sonnen 2, so yes, I think this is the biggest rematch in UFC history. Mainly due to the fact that Weidman beat Silva, after Silva's long run being undefeated in the UFC. It's Silva's first loss in, 7 years. Also, Silva's showboating, potentially costing the fight. So there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered in this fight. So, is Silva really finished as far as the title goes? Is Weidman really the future of the division? Obviously he's got a few challenges ahead with Machida and Belfort. So there could be major changes to the middleweight division that Silva's dominated for so long. So for that reason, it is the biggest fight in UFC history for me. Well, biggest rematch in UFC history for me. Okay, as mentioned, Silva's showboating seems to cost him the fight and the title last time out against Weidman. Would you guys say that's a fair assessment? And do you see showboating in the rematch from Anderson Silva? That question is for you first, Brian.
I would hope not. And people vary on how that fight was going. Some people feel Chris Weidman owned the fight, as short as it was. I didn't. I really thought Silva really had him right where he wanted him, and he just got stupid. Because Chris got the takedown, pretty easy takedown, and did really nothing with it. He did absolutely nothing with the takedown. Nothing like Sonnen. I mean, he was there, but it wasn't that much. And then, I don't know if it was the beginning of, God, I haven't watched the fight forever, but then Weidman goes for a second takedown, and he gets stuffed. And right then, I think you kind of see Silva get his rhythm. And then he starts playing. Well, and then that equals becoming stupid. He got He fought really stupid. 4-ounce gloves just don't give you much of a chance to make a big mistake, and he made a huge mistake. So I don't think he's going to showboat. I think he's going to be a very focused Anderson Silva, but Weidman is improving, and I'm not sure if Silva's improving anymore. So I hope not. I hope he takes it seriously, and if the real Silva shows up, and then we can really deem Weidman a true champion if he wins. Right now, he's a fluke champion, and that's not fair to Silva or Chris Weidman. So we'll have some answers after this. And now, out of respect for the sport, I'd like to think we see no showboating. We're still going to see Silva. He needs that for his rhythm, but we're not going to see this stupid shit, I hope.
Chris, do you think showboating cost Silva in the last fight? And do you think Anderson will showboat in this fight?
I think it was a huge factor a huge talking point in the first fight because, yes, I agree with you, Brian, that Chris Weidman did shoot in again and he got stuck pretty easily. And that's when I started to think, and Chris Weidman admitted this after the fight, that Anderson did get into his head. So it did work for a little bit, but in the end it cost him the fight. And you look at the fight, Anderson didn't really throw a punch in that fight at all because he had his hands down so low and was showboating more than we've ever seen him do it. So I think it was a big talking point because, then the whole question comes up, did he throw the fight? Did he just not want to fight? Did he purposely want to get knocked out, etc., which I think is ridiculous. But it's a big talking point in this fight. So, yeah, I think it's fair enough to talk about it. And, as far as is he going to showboat in this fight, I agree, like with you, Brian, I hope he doesn't. But I think he will. I think, watch the Vitor Belfort fight, and I think we'll see that Anderson, because we'll see an Anderson who knows that he's in front of a guy who can knock him out with one punch, and who's very powerful and can take a punch, and therefore he's gonna keep his hands up to his chin, and he's just gonna move them around in a bit of a weird way, which John Jones does, but more so. But he's not gonna leave his chin open and drop his hands and just put all of and basically just take his eyes off his opponent. He's not going to, as I like to call it, dick around like that. So will he showboat? Probably, just like you said, just to get his rhythm. But, as far as how serious he'll be, as in will he go for the kill if he hurts Weidman, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think he'll showboat, but I think he'll be more smart about it.
I think it's a fair assessment to say he was showboating and it cost him in the last fight. I do highly doubt that he will do it in this fight though, but it is Anderson Silva, so you never know. We've seen what he did against Patrick Tate, and then he came out against Damian Maia and did it, so you see it coming and going from Silva, but obviously he lost, so he's out to prove a point. I see more of the Silva who come out against Belfort in this fight. Okay guys, let's get some predictions on the main event for UFC 168. Brian, who do you think will walk out UFC 168 as the UFC middleweight champion?
I'm saying Silva knockout, second or third round. I think we're going to see a focused one. I think we're going to see striking that is on par to his best striking ever. I'm torn. I really am, because as Chris said, he did get into Weidman's head, and he had Chris Weidman exactly where he wanted Chris Weidman in a stand-up fight. That's exactly where Chris Weidman turned into a stupid fight strategy of just going away from the takedown. He gave up on the takedown. It worked for him. It was a lucky punch. It really was, against a guy acting stupid. He still threw the punch. He had the power behind the punch, and he still knocked him out. But it was a fluke win. And that's, God, it pisses me off because it does take away from the win. But it was still a fluke win. It wasn't like he put 4 or 5 punches together. He threw a punch, he hit him, he knocked him out. Yes, he won the fight. But it's torn because I'm torn because Silva did have him where he wanted to. Does he try to get him there again, fucking with his head and getting him to discard the takedown and just try to do it a little bit smarter this time? I don't know. I really don't know. But I got to have faith in what Silva has become with his legacy, and that's telling me a second or third round knockout.
Chris, who do you think will walk out of UFC 168 as the UFC middleweight champion?
Well, before I give my detailed reason, I'm going to have to say that I'm picking Weidman. But I would just want to say something, Brian. Yes, Chris Weidman did lose his mind a bit in that first fight, and he admitted it in that first round. But there are a lot of factors going into that first fight, which I just feel won't be around here. One is that Chris Weidman was coming off shoulder surgery, and that is no joke. Shoulder surgeries, I try to tell people, they are extremely tough to come back from. He'd had a year layoff. He'd gone through Hurricane Sandy. He had never actually fought Anderson Silva before, so he had a lot of hype to live up to. And he's a guy who feeds off confidence. Talk to Ray Longo, talk to Matt Serra. What makes this guy so special is that he feeds so well off confidence. He's beaten Anderson Silva. And yes, regardless, there's not exactly a blueprint to beat Anderson, because what are you going to do? Wait for his chin to be open? But he has beaten, on paper and in reality, he has beaten Anderson Silva. So he's got every reason in the world to be 100% confident. So I think we'll see a much better Anderson Silva, but I also think we'll see a much better Chris Weidman. And as far as my prediction go, I did originally think what you thought was going to happen, Brian. I did expect Anderson to beat him up around the third round, but that was before I came to grips with the reality of Anderson Silva actually losing. So I have to say I'm picking Weidman, and I think it's going to be a much more of a battle. Anderson's going to be much more serious, and there's going to be some exchanges on the feet, and Weidman he's going to have to take some risks to try and get close to Anderson. Anderson is going to have to take some risks to throw punches where he's at risk of getting countered. At some point, I feel Weidman is going to be able to bully Anderson with his greater size and strength, and it's going to become sort of a takedown fest. And eventually, because we did see in that first round that 30 seconds of Chris Weidman's ground and pound is more dangerous than 4.5 rounds of Chael Sonnen's, and so I think once he starts to ground and pound Silva, we will probably see Anderson Silva's body crumble at almost 40 years old, around about round 2 or 3.
Well, I'm going to have to go with Chris Weidman. I think he's more well-rounded, and I think Silva's lost a little confidence as well. So for that reason, it has to be Chris Weidman for me. Okay, moving on to round 2 and another highly touted rematch. I want to get straight to the point on this, guys. Is this the biggest fight in women's MMA history?
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about it. I know the Cyborg Gina fight was a big fight, but I don't think it was a very good fight. I thought it was a non-skilled fight. It was just and coverage of God, when the two girls fell, they're calling them takedowns. It's like, no, that was a sloppy fall, and Cyborg landed on top. Then they'd fall again. It wasn't a takedown. Oh, takedown by Gene. No, it was a fall, and it was sloppy. So that the sport has evolved. I was one of those people that not interested in women's MMA. I don't need to see anybody throwing bad punches. Oh shit, now here comes Jake Shields again. So it pisses me off when Jake Shields can't throw a punch. And then we have the women that weren't throwing good punches. But that's changed. I've switched over. I respect the women's fighters. They are throwing good punches now. They're not palm of the fist coming forward. And it's not a bar fight. They throw fucking good punches. There's good form. And so it has come along. But is it the biggest fight because of skill? No. It hasn't built up to that, because Misha didn't go win 3 fights to get here. It's a big fight just because of promotion and because of Tough. And I hate Tough doing title fights. I really do. It's a false build-up for a fight, and I hate that it holds off title fights for a filming of a TV show. But number-wise, yes, it is going to be the biggest fight. But I think women's MMA is going to continue to grow to where almost every fight is going to be the biggest fight. It's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty quick. When the cat chick gets healthy, that could be the biggest fight, because a lot of us are interested in that one. So Yes, a fucking long-winded answer. Sure. Sorry.
Chris, do you think this is going to be the biggest fight in women's MMA history?
I do, and I agree with you. I agree with you, Brian. It seems with women's MMA, because it's still such a new sport. It seems that every fight is the next biggest fight. We've had Gina Carano and Cyborg. We've had Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate 1. We've had Ronda Rousey versus Liz Carmouche. I would have to call this fight the biggest fight in women's MMA history because some people are looking at this and saying, well, this fight's going to be one-sided. It's going to be another Ronda Rousey first round armbar. It's over someone who's coming off a loss, doesn't really deserve to be there. Other people will look at it and say, well, actually, Miesha Tate's she's a lot better than what she's shown since that first fight with Ronda Rousey. She was emotionally invested. She has the skill set and the talent to beat Ronda Rousey, and she could be the kryptonite for Ronda Rousey. And these girls have had time to develop their relationship, or hatred, I should say, over the Ultimate Fighter, and it's gone from so many people were siding with Ronda Rousey to where it kind of got a bit silly, to where people are actually hating Ronda Rousey and loving Miesha Tate, and Miesha Tate could be the fan favorite going into this fight. So because of that, and because you count into everything that Miesha Tate's a pioneer of the sport, Ronda Rousey's an Olympian, I think skill set and build up wise, it is the biggest fight. And I think that going to the Katzengano fight briefly, when Katzengano gets healed, we'll see what happens. I think a fight with either Ronda or Miesha could be great, because if Ronda gets through Miesha again, then we're going to see two undefeated fighters fight for a title, which is something women's MMA needs to really boost its popularity. And if Katzengano rematches Miesha, then people will say, well, this is brilliant because Katzengano beat Miesha, but it was a hugely competitive fight. So I think could that fight overshadow this fight if it does happen next? Probably. But as far as this fight goes, it is the biggest fight in women's MMA history, in my opinion.
I think so, personally, Everyone loves a grudge match, and I certainly love a grudge match, guys. I'm actually looking forward to this fight more than Silva versus Weidman 2, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be an absolute cat fight, and there will be blood spill on both sides. They really will. Possibly some hair pulling, Okay, in a recent interview, Misha has mentioned that she has learned stuff about Ronda Rousey from their time on the show together that she previously didn't know. Ronda has even come out in a bad light from the show. Do you think Miesha Tate is in Ronda Rousey's head there, Brian?
Yeah, but I don't think it's that hard. I really don't. We had to call her Ronda Diaz. She's turned into just a Diaz brother, just where the intelligence side of it is just so far from reality to her. It's unfortunate. It's a sport first, and everything is so personal. I think if a freaking mouse looked at her the wrong way, Ronda would get all pissed off at the mouse. Oh, you fucking mouse! You're only a mouse because there's fucking cheese. If you didn't have cheese, you wouldn't fucking even be on the TV show. Just whatever. It just she's so mental midget is a good word. It just gets so worked up over so minimal shit. But that's that Diaz camp where they have to just kind of get this false motivation, me against the world, but it works for him. It works really well for him. And she's got the skills to back it up. So is she in her head? We'll go into predictions later. Absolutely. But it doesn't take much.
Chris, do you think Miesha Tate's in Ronda Rousey's head?
Well, actually, no. I think Ronda Rousey's in Miesha Tate's head again. No, I'm just kidding. No, she is definitely in Ronda Rousey's head. And just to touch on what Brian said, I don't think it's a so-called Diaz camp thing that Ronda Rousey has inherited, because you don't see Jake Shields or Gil Melendez acting like this. Now, Jake Shields isn't exactly the most fierce competitor, the fighter with the most ruthless intensity that we've ever seen, but Gil Melendez is a ruthless. He's a very aggressive, and we all know who Gil Melendez is. Just watch his fight with Diego Sanchez. He's not like this. So Ronda Rousey is basically the third Diaz brother. But I agree with you. It's got a bit silly. I mean, I was in high school 2 years ago, and it's just a fact. Ronda Rousey is deeply insecure, and when I was watching The Ultimate Fighter, it felt like I was actually in high school again. That Dana White was the principal of the school, trying to assess the situation, and Miesha Tate was saying, she attacked me, and I'm just not going to respond. And Ronda Rousey saying, well, she better apologize for just breathing, or just looking at me the wrong way. So it did get a bit silly, but that's what pulls people in. Is Miesha Tate Ronda's head? Absolutely. And I don't think that... I will say this, I don't think Miesha Tate is this fake, quote-unquote, fake BITCH that all of Ronda Rousey's fans and Ronda Rousey herself like to portray her as. I think Misha's just a genius. I mean, she does what Ronda Rousey doesn't want her to do, which is, smile in her face, but, and quote-unquote, not be real. And I think it's brilliant because it's, like you said, it is so easy to get under Ronda Rousey's skin. It just makes for great television, and it really makes a lot of people say, God, I really want this person to get her butt whooped. Well, here's a girl who a lot of people don't believe. I said it before, and I'll say it again. A lot of people don't think she can do it, but if you're a hardcore fan of women's MMA like I am, you will look at it and say, well, Miesha Tate does have the skill level to beat Ronda Rousey. So because of that, I know it's a bit of a long answer, and I'll finish up. Miesha Tate is definitely in Ronda's head, and it makes this fight brilliant.
Now, Chris, you mentioned Jake Shields doesn't act like Diaz, Ronda Rousey, with the mean mug, shit talking. I just want to say, Jake Shields, if you listen to these shows and listen to what you've been saying, Brian, I think he would start with the shit talking. He's going to be hooking you up on Twitter. Who's this?
The only time I've ever seen, I'll say it here, the only time I've seen Jake Shields do any trash talking is when he said that Johnny Hendricks was whining about Nick Diaz getting a title shot, and he offered her, and he basically called him out. Which, I mean, I get it, you're going to stick up for your friend, but I mean, if you watch Nate Diaz's interview after beating up Gray Maynard and he called out Anthony Pierce and Josh Thompson, Gil Melendez was there shaking his head in the background, just, like he just didn't want to be there. So, I mean, the Diaz brothers are who they are. They're going to do what they do, but it doesn't mean that people around them are going to be that way.
Okay, guys, who are you taking in this grudge match between Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate? Let's go with you first, Brian.
If I had to put money on it, I got to go Ronda. But I will so be rooting for Misha. My only hope is that the head is so screwed up that Ronda will make a mistake. And she'll be coming out so aggressively that she'll make a mistake. But Ronda is such a good fighter. She really, really is a good fighter. I see it ending just about like every other Ronda fight. I really do. That judo aspect she has is just, it's stupid good. I mean, she is so far above the level of everybody else. Some of these women wrestlers, I think, will start having a chance against her. But at this point in time, she really is just that much better. Now, Tate, has she evolved? I don't know. I really don't. But she could have Ronda off her game. I will be pulling for Tate. There is no other fight. The last fighter I was pulling for as hard as I was pulling for Tate was Hendo versus Bisping.
Wow.
Sorry, Dirty. That's how hard I am rooting for Tate in this fight. And when Bisping won, I think I pulled something jumping out of my chair. It just, I mean, for a white boy, I actually jumped. I might have been able to dunk a basketball. So I was pretty fucking amped for that. And if Tate was able to win somehow, I need to get my heart checked because I might fucking blow something. It'd be awesome for me. Money? Nah, it's got to be on Ronda.
Win or lose, Brian, do you think at the end of the fight, obviously, do you know where both corners, they shake hands, a lot of respect shown. Do you expect Ronda to flip the bird to possibly Brian Caraway? Because we know he's going to be in Miesha Tate's corner.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a classless. Oof, I almost said something really bad. No, she's not going to show any class. She's gonna flip her off. Misha will put the hand out there, say good job, and she's gonna be classless. Even Nick fucking Diaz can shake hands after a fight. All the shit talking he did with Frank Shamrock, he was the first one trying to help him up. So Nick Diaz gets that. He will fucking mug you all the way into the fight. But once the fight's over, he's good. Now, 3 seconds after that, he comes kind of stupid again, calling for a rematch. But, this got beat, but that part of it is he's fine with. And Nate Diaz, he's more questionable. Usually he's halfway decent after a fight, pretty respectful against the guy he's fighting. I don't see that with Ronda. I think she's going to flip her off, call her a cunt, stupid bitch, whatever it is. She's not going to let it go. And that's the part I hate. I absolutely despise. I love it when two guys can fucking talk shit. BJ Penn talking about blood. I'm going to drink his blood, whatever, and then shake hands afterwards. That is what the sport drives for me. That is what, I mean, these two guys are just fucking trying to destroy each other and then shake hands and hug afterwards, say, hey, good job. I mean, if I've trained martial arts most of my life, there is a certain aspect of that quality that you have to respect your opposition, your training partners. And that, I think, is lost with Ronda. I really do. And I hate that. It really just bothers me. And so when two guys hug, shake, say, hey, good job after a fight, that's what sells me on the sport. It really is.
Chris, who are you taking out of Ronda and Misha?
Well, first of all, I just want to just answer what you said, one of your future questions about will these two shake hands afterwards. Mark my words, I will say it. I will say it right here, right now. Ronda Rousey, if she beats Miesha Tate, I will not be surprised one bit if she slaps her. Ronda Rousey is, now this is not a knock on her, this is just a fact. She is so insecure that she actually says that Miesha Tate is a terrible person just because Misha tries to shake hands with her after a fight. It makes no sense. But Ronda Rousey is deeply insecure, and once you get to a certain age and you don't deal with your insecurity, it affects you big time. So Ronda Rousey, yes, nobody besides her hardcore fans is a fan of this classless act that she puts on, but people are going to watch her, and she was prepared for a long time that people were going to hate her. So I guess it works for her. And you know what? I would like to think that, first of all, okay, I'm going to go with Ronda Rousey, but I think that Miesha Tate does have a chance, as I've said before. And there is a chance. I mean, it would be so ironic if Ronda Rousey came guns blazing, forgot about her game plan, and got beat, because that's how the first fight went with Miesha Tate. Now Miesha Tate's got her head straight, and people say, well, she's coming off 3 bad performances. Her last 2 performances I partly put down to her not mentally being there. She admitted against Julie Kedzie that her rivalry with Ronda was killing her love for the sport. And against Kat Zingano, it was more, she had plenty of chances to finish that fight, except she was so focused on Ronda that she just didn't settle in once. Now, will she do that for this fight? I think there's a high chance she will, and if she does, then this fight could become a war. If she is mentally not there in this slightly, then I feel that will cost her the fight, and Ronda Rousey's overall athleticism and power and size is just gonna overwhelm her. Now, I don't think that Ronda Rousey's gonna outstrike Miesha Tate. If Misha hits her pretty hard in the face, then who knows? Ronda Rousey's game may change, and suddenly we might see a striking battle, which is I don't really see happening, but it could happen. In which case, I think Miesha Tate will win. But I have to go with my gut feeling, and my gut feeling is that these two are going to come out firing, and eventually, some point in the first round, Ronda is going to push Misha up against the cage, and at some point, it's going to take a while. There's going to be a lot of grappling involved, but at some point, Ronda will get the takedown, and when she gets the takedown, she's on top of you. It's just virtually impossible to get her off. So she is going to probably armbar Misha again. But I'll just finish this off by saying, when Miesha Tate was clearly she forgot about her game plan in that first fight. She was not ready. She was just mentally out of it. she became the only person to date to escape a Ronda Rousey armbar, and she got Ronda's back. The only way she did get taken down again, but that was basically because she fell into Ronda. So, and I'm just saying that happened when she was mentally not there. If she's mentally there, a lot could happen. So that's all I'm saying. But I'm going with Ronda.
I'm going to have to go with Ronda all the way. I think she finishes the fight via armbar once again. Okay, that's a wrap for part 1. Please keep an eye out for part 2 of MMA Crypt's Fight and Talk for UFC 168.